Hey, how's it going guys, and welcome back to the next episode of a 100% walkthrough of Death's Gambit. Last episode we managed to finish the Darkness Falls and defeat the Dark Knight boss. Today we're going to be continuing into the GARDE TUM, which is the Metroid futuristic-like area in this game. The first time you enter this area, it can be one of the most confusing areas in the game. So let's just jump straight into it. The first thing we're going to notice, as soon as we enter the area, there's actually a little bit of an Easter egg. If we have an Abysmal Eye, this is useful for absolutely nothing, but if we throw it into the room before the screen shows up, it actually says Disney World instead of GARDE TUM, which is the real name of the area. So this is some sort of an Easter egg or reference. It's not really useful for anything, but it's just a cool sort of thing that people have discovered. I've seen this on Reddit and on the Discord. I do not take credit for discovering this, but it's kind of cool. So once we head into GARDE TUM, we're going to find an outer as soon as we head in. So level up, spend the points or whatever from the previous boss, and continue left until you get to this first lift. We're going to want to take the lift all the way down to the bottom. So once we get to the bottom of the lift, we're going to see a slight glimpse of Bysurge, which is going to be the boss of this area. Be careful, in GARDE TUM there's going to be a lot of these flashing sort of items that are sort of fake pickups. If you stand near them, they'll start flashing red, and they will explode and do a pretty decent amount of damage, so be careful with those. These enemies we're going to see a lot of around GARDE TUM as well, which are these sort of electronical skeletons that when we kill them, when they're standing up, they will fire these electric charges along the floor, so be careful with those, and then they will actually continue to crawl along the floor again, so make sure you destroy the coolant body as well. Once we kill those, come over here to the right, there'll be an enemy hidden inside this wall to the right, so make sure you take him out before he ambushes you. And then you can activate this panel, and this panel is going to be the first of the maps we can find. So on this map, we are represented by the red dot, and the pink flashes always represent some sort of a hidden pathway. So the only reason we had to come this way is to find out where the hidden pathway was. You could just go directly to the left if you already know about this. So now you know this, you have no reason to go right. There's no really item pickups. Come over here to the left, past the broken elevator, and you can walk through this invisible sort of wall here. Once you get to the other side, the first thing we're going to do is there's actually going to be a Sunstone in the bottom left corner if you're interested in picking that up. We simply need to walk over all of the flashing lights to turn them green, and that will activate the lift we can take down to the next section of the game. Just to the left of the elevator, we're going to find the next outer, so you're most likely not got enough shards to level up again since the previous one, but something we are going to do is send the lift up again, but jump off very quickly and take the pathway underneath the lift that is revealed, and down here we're going to find an Immortal stone, which as we know are some of the most rare items on the game, so be sure to pick this up. And now we want to take the right real quick, and we'll see again the shadow of Bysurge. Take out a few more of these enemies that we've already seen a few of these, so we know exactly how to deal with them. Continue to the right and take out these eyeball laser enemies. And just here we can see this sort of a latch door down below. This is going to be a shortcut we can come back to afterwards. And this item is going to be the H7 launcher, which is going to be the first of the energy weapons we can pick up in this level. And straight above us, we're going to find the first of the red crystals. There's 4 of these throughout the entire level, and once we activate all 4 of them by hitting them, it will unlock a hidden room which contains some very good items in it, including the Gaia relic number 2. We do have a separate video on the channel that focuses just on the locations of these 4 crystals, in case that's the only reason you're here. Maybe looking for a guide just for the crystals. We have one of those on the channel, so just check that out if you're interested. Either way, in this video, we will be covering the location of all 4 of the crystals, but it's going to be amongst many other things. So the way to hit this one is actually going to be coming back here with the swarm later on in the level. If you are really impatient, you can also do this, just so you know, by doing the item jump, which is sort of a glitch jump where you can pick up an item on the same frame as you jump. And you do extra high jump, and this will allow you to actually reach it with the melee attack. Just know that this is kind of a glitch, so if you want to be completely legit about this, wait until you get to the end of the level, and we'll be picking up the Swarm, which is like a boomerang-fired weapon, which will allow you to actually hit that switch, which we'll be showing you a little bit later on once we do pick up the Swarm, but it's just cool to know this sort of information. Whether you hit the switch or not, we're going to continue over to the left and take out these 2 enemies here on these kind of energy platforms by pressing the panel. Be careful not to walk straight off. Here, instead of falling down, we're going to go to the left and we'll find the first tome of Bysurge, which, as we said before, is going to be the boss of this area. Walk across this pool of blood, which luckily won't damage us, as some of the pools of blood do later on in the game. And inside this eerie, kind of even creepy looking room, we want to wait for it to light up, and after this little part of dialogue, we'll get another map. And this map is very important to look at, as it shows quite a few interesting things. The first thing we're going to notice on this map, as usual, we are going to be the red dot, so we're here in the top left. And straight below us, to the right, halfway down this next drop, we're going to notice there's kind of like a little compartment. We want to be going in there first. And also right at the bottom to the left, we can notice there's another flashing pink wall. And that is going to be, as we know, an invisible sort of pathway we can get to. And there's also going to be another compartment just over to the right. And there's also one more pink flashing right to the end, which is a lot more obvious. We're going to stick to the right as we're falling and fall into this little compartment here. In here we will get the energy cloak. Also, there's going to be the second of the red crystals. Halfway down here, we're going to find a couple of items. We're going to find a Sunstone. Also notice as soon as we jumped into this compartment that a crystal listed did get away from us. So definitely try to chase that down if you get the chance to. Inside here to the left is going to be the Immortal stone through this hidden pathway that we've seen on the map. So that's why those maps are so important to find items like those. Dash across here, or you can simply grab onto those weird contraption things to sort of hover across instead if you don't have the dash yet. Here, as we've seen on the map, there's also a compartment to the top, so there's something up here. If we go up here, we'll find the energy shield, which is a very good shield to take on the boss of this area. So definitely remember to pick that up. Continuing further forwards, here we're going to need an energy cell, fellas. The energy cell is located in the observatory, which is one of the areas a little bit later on in the game. So again, we do actually have a separate video on the channel explaining where to get the energy cell and the quickest route to get it back down here. But that's not really included in this area, so just know that if you do go to the observatory, you can get the energy cell, and if you bring it back down here, it will give you an Immortal stone. Just so you know that, like I said, if you're interested in the location, just Google it and the video should show up, or just check on the channel. In this next room, we're going to find this giant sort of lightsaber enemy that until we kill it, we will not be able to proceed to the next section, as the floor will not appear, and even if we could get across, it would actually be blocked off by a doorway until the enemy is defeated. He deals a lot of damage, but his attacks are very predictable, so once you've dealt with him however you see fit, we can actually continue over here to the right. Here, there is going to be, as we've seen on the map, another secret pathway here, an invisible wall we can go through, but we're not going to go through there quite yet. We're going to go up here by grabbing onto this thing and climb up the way we can see here on screen. There's a couple of items up here as well. I believe one of them was just sunstones, or maybe soulstones. Yeah, it was 3 soulstones. So once we pick those up, continue climbing, and this is going to lead back to that shortcut we said right near the beginning, just before we explained about the first crystal. Remember there's that sort of doorway we could see? This is going to be that doorway, and notice now we're back at the first crystal. So this shortcut's going to be good, so when we find the swarm, we can come back and do the crystal if you haven't already activated it. Now we do want to fall back down to the bottom and come through this invisible wall. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down this elevator. Don't worry about the pathway to the right quite yet. We're going to be coming back for that just in a second. At the bottom here, we are going to find another outer to the right. You may have enough shards to level up at this point, so be sure to go and do that. Now, here I'm going to explain something. There's actually a secret slash cut content slash nobody knows how to get there yet, so I want to include it just to explain so you guys are aware of this. There's a room over here to the left. If we stick underneath the elevator and look to the left, we can see a weird room with some strange giant eyeball enemy inside of it that nobody has found any way to access it yet. In fact, there's a chance that nobody can actually get in there. A few people on PC have accessed the code and found a way to sort of, like, I guess you could say hack into there, but as far as the standard game goes, there's actually no known way to get inside that room, which is, maybe it's cut content, maybe it's a reference to a different game, like a bit of an Easter egg or something. Maybe they just forgot to take it out, but it seems almost too convenient that we can just see a glimpse of it, so they definitely wanted us to see that room, but we'll have to see. In the future, if anyone does figure it out, we will upload it onto the channel, but just be aware of that. So anyway, after the save point, we're going to head over here to the right and climb up here. We want to climb up here, being very careful of the explosives and these electric sort of balls hovering around, as they can deal quite a bit of damage as well as stagger us for a while. And at the top left side, we'll find the third of the red crystals that we needed. Inside this next room, we need to do the same as we did in the first room when we entered this place. We need to activate all of these flashing lights by simply standing over them. We will be, however, on a little bit of a time limit for this one, as we need to press them all pretty quickly. So the easiest way of doing this is simply jumping on all 3 of the ones over here to the right in a row, and then going over to the ones here on the left and getting the last one on the jump down. And that should activate this final map. Again, you don't really need to do this if you already know where the secret pathway is, which is simply, as we can see, flashing in pink straight above us to our right. So what we need to do is use that information we just got to jump through this sort of hidden pathway here, drop down, and we'll see by surge once again. Now, once we've seen that, we're going to come over here to the left, defeat the few enemies there are, and press this panel. This will unlock the shortcut back to the area we can see with the platforms just before we jumped up, just after the previous save point. So now we've done that, we're going to continue over to the right. Here we'll see the first sort of positive, negative charges. So when we walk through, the red particles will be negatively charged, and when we walk through the blue particles will be positively charged. All this means is that we'll deal less damage to the enemies in the same charge as us, and we'll deal more damage to the ones in the opposite charge. So if we're charged with blue, we'll do more damage to the enemies that are glowing red, and vice versa. That's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and it also works like that against the boss, so that's something you do have to take into account if you feel like you're doing extremely low damage to the boss. For this next area, there's quite a few enemies coming up. I would recommend being in the blue charge, simply because all the red eyeball laser enemies are in red, and you want to be able to deal with those as quick as possible, as there's going to be a section where there's a whole bunch of them, and you need to kill them to unlock the next sort of section. Also, just now on the floor, you notice that we just unlocked the Swarm. We just picked it up, and that's going to be the energy weapon I mentioned before. That's going to be very, very important to grab the first crystal if we didn't do it in this sort of item jump way. So now we'll grab this Swarm. We could potentially walk all the way back to the beginning if we wanted by taking the shortcut and activate that first crystal. I will quickly show a clip on screen of how to do it with the Swarm, as it can be a little bit complicated the way the Swarm sort of shoots. It's like a boomerang weapon. As you can see, you have to jump and sort of move over to the right so the bullets come back towards you as they're already inside the sort of section where the crystal is. Now also on the way back, instead of going down the lift, what we want to do is we want to come over here to the right, and if you guys remember, we said there was this sort of empty lift slot where there wasn't really any lift, but if we wait long enough, one of these contraption things will come down that we can grab onto again. And up here we're going to find the second tome for By-Surge, which is actually pretty well hidden. But that's not all there's going to be up here. Up here is also going to be the fourth and final crystal we needed for the 4 red crystal puzzle, as well as the doorway that it unlocks. Luckily they're right next to each other. So if you've hit every other crystal, obviously if you've been back and activated the first one with the Swarm, then came back here, you'll find the final crystal just here, as you can see, and on the ceiling to the right it will represent all the crystals we've activated. This will unlock the doorway just here, and we can find 3 items. We can find a Leaf of Gaia, an Immortal Stone, and most importantly the Gaian Relic number 2, which are these sort of super hidden items I keep mentioning about. So now we've got those, we can continue back down the elevator to where we were before. As you remember, was inside this section where the platforms are and these sort of electric balls coming down. And just over here to the right, we picked up the anti-gravity aura that I was talking about. So once we grab those, be careful, these eyeball enemies are still following us because we can't run past them this time. Continue climbing to the top. In here to the left, don't worry about that item. That's actually not a real item. It's just a sort of fake explosive. Then we can climb up here a little bit further. We'll find a crow plume and continue walking left through this anti-gravitational sort of particles. And we'll find another save point. Just to the left of this save point is going to be kind of a cool little cutscene slash dialogue. We'll find Death playing some sort of video game, and that's kind of an interesting sight to see. We can't really make out which video game it is. I'm not sure it's meant to represent a real game. It's kind of hard to see. Once we've done that, we can climb up these platforms over here to the right, and this is going to unlock a shortcut that's going to be all the way back to the main sort of Rider's Passage area that connects all the levels together. Just so you can make a mental reference of where we are, as we always do in these episodes. We're going to go left, just so you can see exactly where we are. We're pretty much directly below the bulwark fight, if you remember correctly, which is just above these ladders. As there's no fast travel in this game, it's nice to know which is the quickest pathway to get to each area from wherever you are. So now we've done that, we can head back down. Obviously nothing important to grab up here. From the save point, jump across to the right, and here we have a decision to make. Now, the next enemy we're going to face is going to be the boss of this area, so before the boss we can choose whether we want to have a blue positive charge or the red negative charge. The boss will keep on changing from one phase to another between a red and blue form, so really it doesn't really matter. He's always going to start in the red charge, so I always like starting off in the blue positive charge just to do extra damage as soon as the fight starts. However, red is probably more beneficial, as there's a section where he's in the blue charge himself that is pretty vulnerable to do a lot of damage if you're on the red charge. But again, this doesn't make a huge difference, whichever stage you're facing him, whichever color you're facing him, it just doesn't matter. Just try to hit him as much as possible in both stages, really. Okay, so once we're here, there's quite a few things to explain about this boss fight. It's kind of one of the toughest ones in the game, especially on low levels. So he has a variety of different attacks. If he does this double sweep attack, he's always going to follow up with this shockwave, which can be very powerful. I would recommend trying to iframe it, learn the exact pattern you need to dodge it instead of just trying to get out of range, as you won't always be able to get out of range. This next laser attack that you have to block, you can't dodge it. Notice that it's always going to charge the energy bars up of whichever enemy in the background is closest to where the laser is hitting you. So that's why you always want to be moving around when being hit by the red laser. That way it will sort of, it will share out the charge, as you can see here, amongst different enemies, so it doesn't fully charge any of the bars in the background. Because once the bar is fully charged, as you can see this one managed to fully charge, it will actually bring that enemy to life inside the boss fight, and that's what we don't want, too many enemies alive in the boss fight. Now, he's actually going to do a polarity change here every 40 seconds, as it says just below his HP bar. That's a good opportunity to hit him. When he's transforming from red to blue, he'll always do this charge where it will release these the electronic fields along the ground, so just jump over those, pretty easy to dodge. Once it's already in the stage, it's pretty much the same. He can do the same attacks as he could in the red stage. It's only the transformation attacks that really change when it's transforming from one stage to the other. So now he's changing through from the blue to the red stage. When he's changing through from blue to red stage, he's always going to do this sort of laser pattern attack, where you just don't want to be standing, obviously, on those blue lines when they materialize. It will give you like a second or so to make sure you can get out of the way of them. And then he'll do this sort of, then he'll do the actual transformation itself. That's pretty much all there is to this fight, guys. He gets a decent amount of HP. It can take a while, especially, like I said, if you're on a low level. Literally, this was probably the hardest boss for me on level 1, other than Endless. So just rinse and repeat pretty much. Just augment as many feathers as you can for damage, just to pick away his HP as quick as you can. Crystal bombs are pretty effective against this boss, and yeah, that's all there is to say about this, guys. And that is going to put an end to this episode of 100% walkthrough all items guide of Death's Gambit. This has been GARDE TUM. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we will see you next time.